So you guys with me have been enjoying these wonderful guest speakers for the last almost 2 years. And I remember when I sat down with Pastor Ray and Garrett and Andy, I think it was in Palm Desert, and had a conversation about how we could get some help preaching. And Ray said to us, I got guys. I'll send you some guys. Remember that? And boy, for the last 2 years, we've just been blessed by these guys that come down from Bayside, and they love our church. And I call them my staff now, so just so you know that. Full disclosure, they're on my preaching team now, so there you go. But I am very, very excited to have Ray with us today. We got to spend some time together last night, and this is the man responsible and helpful in getting us all these awesome speakers. Let's give Pastor Ray a hand this morning.
Thank you, Kurt. All right, good morning. First of all, I had a quick thing to say here. I love this guy, Kurt. Y'all like him too? I'm going to ask that again. Do you all like him? Me too. And so if I can give you a little bit of a global thing, I'm in a lot of churches. We have 10 churches that are just Bayside churches. So I'm in a lot of churches. And in my opinion, I just want to talk about your church for a second, and then we'll get to the message. Every church needs two things. It needs stability in the present and a great next 25 years. Wouldn't y'all agree? Because, matter of fact, there are 360,000 churches in America. Every single one of them has a past. Almost none of them have a future. And the only people that have a future are people that are going, let's maintain stability, but let's ignite a next great 25 years. Make sense? And so I've been doing this at Bayside, and because here's the deal. Kurt is stability. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you're also world class at what you do. I mean, almost nobody's better. But Kurt is an old guy. Now, I'm older than Kurt. We both are, which means I bring a lot of stability to all of our Bayside churches. Kurt does the same thing here, stability and class, and keeps it God honoring and kind of stuff. Then you go find somebody that's going to actually team up with Kurt and give you the next 25 years. So you just expand your pastoral staff with a senior pastor, but you keep Kurt around. Would you all agree? Okay. So you're still going to be stuck with Kurt, and just like my church is still stuck with me. And so you do a search. And right now, how long has this search been going on? You have a search team. You've been looking for sort of the next pastor 3 months or so, and already people are going, what's taking so long? Wine. You know what I'm talking about? Because it happens in every church. There's a Southern California church, and the Southern California church did a search for the new pastor, but they pretty much went, we are not going to settle. And so what they did was they pretty much went, okay, the search took 3 years. For 3 years, this church is whining, what's this search committee doing? How come we can't, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of 3 years, they brought in a brand new pastor named Chuck Swindoll, and it became the leading church in America. So my advice is take all the time you need. Whatever you do, don't settle, and we'll just keep sending Bayside pastors up here to help in the meantime. Is that okay with y'all? Okay, good. The other thing I want to say is this. I talk about your church around the country because I'm in a lot of churches. And your church, this town is somewhere between 15 and 18,000. 2,000 plus people go to this church. You are doing a better job percentage-wise reaching your community than almost any church in America is doing. And so God is doing some really great stuff here. You might be used to it, but all of our guys come in and say it's mind-blowing. Last time I was here, I was out in the lobby and I was signing books afterwards, and the service started. I was out there with a group of people. I said, this is the best run church I've ever seen. What do you guys attribute that to? And two of them yelled out, we have a lot of women on staff. So women, great job with this church. Way to go. Okay. Now, would you grab out your message notes if you want? If you got a Bible, grab it, turn to Nehemiah chapter 2, and I'm going to talk fast. Are you all ready? Good. Now, I'm also going to talk really fast because I've got some stuff to cover, and they give you like no time here. And so what I'm going to do is this. I actually want this to change your life, and here's why. Just look up here for a second. Every single one of you, you're a teenager, you're 80, you're in between, you're married, you're single, whatever. Every single one of you, you're doing something all the time, every day. You just don't know you're doing it, okay? And what you're doing is this. You're going, how do I get from here to There. Every time you drive, you're going, how do I get from here to there? For example, you're going, how do we get from here, discouraged and depressed, to there, living with hope? Make sense? How do I get from here, kind of isolated, and I don't have many friends, to there, I have better friends? How do I get from here, my friends are a bad influence, to there, I got some friends that are a good influence? Okay, some of you are single, some of you are going, how do I get from here, single, to there, married? Or you're going, hey, how do we get from here, married, without kids, to there, married with kids? Or some of you are going, how do I get from here, kids in the house, to there, kids out of the house? Okay? And you know what I'm talking about? Everybody is always going, how do we get from here to there? So I actually came up with an outline. I am hoping you keep this and use this for a long, long time, because there was a group of people in the Bible, in the book of Nehemiah. You turn the page to Nehemiah, and there is a group of people that have been here, stuck for 92 years. 92 years of failure, 92 years of frustration, 92 years of fear, 92 years of absolute terror and fear. And they haven't gotten better in 92 years because they're in Jerusalem, and years before they had been attacked by Nebuchadnezzar, taken captive and made slaves in Babylon, and they were in Babylon for 70 long years. At the end of 70 years, the new king goes, hey, y'all been great. Thanks for coming and being our slaves for 70 years. You can go home. And they're like, cool. So they go back to Jerusalem. Now, job one is, in those days, you had to build a wall. You had to build a wall of protection. That was the only way people are saying. So job one is you go back and you rebuild the wall. They go back and they've got to get from here, unprotected and scared, to there, secure, because we have a wall. So this group of people goes back, and it is like 60-something years later, and they still have not gotten the wall. Totally failed to build this wall, living in fear, frustration, and the whole thing's a mess. Another group goes back. We're going to build the wall. They go back. They don't build the wall. People, check it out. It is 92 years later. If you don't think that's a long time, take your age, add 92. How old will you be? You'll be dead. But it is 92 years of failure, 92 years of we're here and we're stuck. And all of us know what that feels like. And we're not getting there. It's better. And one guy named Nehemiah, his brothers go to Jerusalem. They come back. Nehemiah goes, hey, man, how's it going with God's people? How's it going with Jerusalem? Is the wall up? Are they thriving? Have they gotten from here to there? And his brothers look at him and go, dude, well, they didn't use the word dude. It's a disgrace, man. The wall is burned down. The gates are burned with fire. It's a disaster. The people are in disgrace. They're stuck. And Nehemiah decides to get them unstuck. That's actually why I'm here this morning. For some of you are going, man, I feel a little bit stuck, a little bit paralyzed, and I really would like to have a better life. I'm done with being here. How do I get there? Nehemiah goes in and changes their whole world with one verse, one phrase. It's got 4 parts. And Nehemiah walks in to these discouraged people. He gathers them all in Nehemiah chapter 2, and he just says this. It's on the screen. He looks at them and he goes, the God of heaven will give us success, and we, his servants, will arise and build. It's a 4-part word. Number 1, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his, will arise and build. Okay, we're all going to say this out loud. Are you all ready? Here we go. The God of heaven. Okay, look, you all have had breakfast, okay? You're all caffeinated, so I expect this to be a little stronger. Y'all ready? The God of heaven, that's the first part, will give us success. That's part 2. And then it says this, and we, his servants. And that's part 3, will arise and build. That's part 4. Now, you want to have all the power you need for your life to be transformed and every relationship you have. Here it is. The God of heaven, God-centered. That's the start. That's first base. But it doesn't stop there. The God of heaven will give us success. That's second base. You're God-centered, but you're faith-focused instead of failure-focused, past-focused. The God of heaven will give us success. And then it says this, we, his Servants, servant-hearted. That's rare these days. Servant-hearted, which means your life is starting to make a difference, okay? And it doesn't stop there either. He says, servant, God of heaven will give us success. We as servants. And the last one is, will arise and build. Future-oriented, because so many people these days in churches, their only goal for the future is to bring back the past. And I'm going to unpack each one of these. Y'all still with me? Good. Here we go. If you want to get from here to there in any area, it starts with this. And these are the 4 best decisions you will ever make. Decision number 1, the God of heaven. That means I'm God-centered. That means I'm God-centered. Now, I know, by the way, we got teenagers here. We got people in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. Okay? And I'm not dumb enough to believe everybody in every church is God-centered. I think most people in most Christian churches these days, they're attenders of church, but not God-centered. And here's the problem, okay? If you're not God-centered, what do you propose to place in the center of your life that will be good for you? So if you're not God-centered, you're going, I'm rejecting God. I am not going to be one of those religious fanatics. I am not going to be God-centered. What are your options? I'm going to put them here really fast. Here you go. If you're not God-centered, here's the only option you got. If not God-centered, you're going to be self-centered. And if you're self-centered, you're going to be unhappy. And I can prove it. When's the last time you met a self-centered, happy person? Raise your hand if you know a self-centered person. Put them, let's give me everybody there, okay? Raise your hand. If they're sitting next to you, don't raise your hand. Number 1, self-centered. Matter of fact, is anybody here going, I'm single, I'd like to get married. Where's a self-centered person I can marry? Anybody here going, I run a company, I'm looking to build employees that change the world and will thrive as a company. Where are self-centered people we can hire? Not a chance, okay? Number 1, self-centered. Second one is this, looks-centered. Looks-centered. How many of you women got ready for church today? You know what's funny is I'm a wife, daughters, granddaughters. The problem is this, I look in the mirror in the morning and I go, that's about as good as it's going to get. Women look in the mirror, doesn't really matter. Like, by the time I'm done, I'm looking good. The problem with being look-centered is this. If you're look-centered, you're going to be insecure because you're always worried about what everybody is thinking about how good you look. And you're going to spend a lot of money on surgery post-50. The self-centered, look-centered. Some people, though, they're failure-centered, which means they're discouraged, and their only view of the future is to stay in the present. You're afraid of other people. They're others-centered. They're worried about what everybody thinks about them, which means they're filled with anxiety. Other people, they're not self or looks or failure or other-centered. They're problem-centered. They're Christian Eeyores. Their face looks like the front cover for the book of Lamentations. They're miserable all the time. This will never work, okay? Other people, now I'm sure this is not true in this community, but there's some Christians that don't tithe, they don't sacrifice, and they don't give because they're not God-centered, they are money-centered. Now I'm sure that's nobody here, but if you're money-centered, you'll just be selfish. I have 2 brand new ones, okay? Has anybody here got a cell phone? Anybody else? Like, how many of you actually own a cell phone? Raise your hand. Well, how many have an iPhone? Raise your hand. How many of you have something other than an iPhone? Wow, I didn't know y'all existed. Are you aware, if you have a phone, here's the deal. You're socially media-centered. The average American that has a cell phone scrolls, you know what I'm talking about scrolling? Scrolls the length of the Empire State Building 7 times every day. And it's going, what happens to you if you spend a lot of time on social media? You get madder and dumber at the same time. If you're going, man, I'd like to be madder and dumber, just spend all this time on social media. Okay, here's another one. It's a new one. There are people that are politically centered. Have you met these people? Yeah, by the way, what politically centered? You're going to be miserable. And I can prove it. If you are waiting for our government to make you happy, you are never going to be happy. Would you all agree with this? Matter of fact, when the election happened, I stood in front of all of our churches and I said one thing over and over and over again. And here's what I said. We have got to stop letting politicians that we don't know stop us from loving people we do know. And so you're looking at this, number 1 is God-centered. You're aware it's possible for a church, an entire church, or some of the people in it to not be God-centered. Ricky Jenkins is here. Is it next week? He says 3, you say 2. Ricky's coming, okay? And have you heard him before? He's awesome. He's in a church called Southwest. Southwest is a mega church in the Palm Springs area, and every time they self-destructed because some leader did some crazy thing, I would call and I'd go in and be their pastor for a while because we have so many pastors at Bayside, they don't really need me, so I could fly in there, and I was there, and they hired a pastor, and that bombed, so I came back in. But the last time I went back in, I said, hey, look, I was here for a long time. You picked a pastor. The minute I met the guy, I went, this could be a disaster. And it was a disaster. So I said, I want to help you pick the next pastor. And I said, you'll have a search committee, but they got to get through me and a guy named Jack Hamilton. Okay. And so we went out to breakfast with Ricky. We're like, this guy would be perfect. And so Ricky comes in. Ricky's African-American. His wife is white. And they're just a great couple, great pastor, great communicator. And Ricky comes in, he preaches, church falls in love with him, they bring him back, preaches again, you just feel this Holy Spirit romance thing. So like, good, I'm out, man. We got this church, they got the leader. I'm up north at Bayside, backstage on a Sunday morning. My phone rings, and I answer it because it's the leadership team from that church. And they said, Ray, can you leave your church right now, go to the airport, get a flight, and get down here now? And I said, what's up? And they said, well, tonight, Ricky, it's a question and answer time with the whole congregation. And he said they emailed in questions. And they said, no, we've also heard there's some rumors of some of the older folks in our church, and they're actually saying this. I don't know if I can vote for this guy because I don't know if I can get comfortable having a black guy as my pastor. Is this crazy? And then also a couple, and he said, and some of them saying, I don't know if I could get comfortable with a mixed marriage. I go, I'll be down. I hang up. We go down. The worship center is packed, and we had 3 chairs up there. I'm on the left one. April, his wife's in the middle. She's awesome. Ricky on the right, and we just start asking them some questions. And then I just asked them this question: hey, have you guys ever experienced discrimination because of your race or your marriage? And they answered that with a lot of class. And then I thought, okay, I got to solve this right now. Can you be a racist and be God-centered? No. So I got my Bible, I stood up, and I just looked at everybody, and I said, now, church, I love you all, and you know it. I've been here a ton of times, and here's what I want to say to you all, okay? I've heard this. Some of you go, I don't know if I can get comfortable with that black guy being pastor, and I don't know if I can get comfortable with a mixed marriage. And I said, if that's you, come find me afterwards, because I'd love to lead you to Christ, because you can't possibly be a Christian. And the whole place exploded in applause. That never happens in Washington, but they exploded in applause. And because I literally said this, the Bible isn't even 1 chapter old when it says this: all people are created in the image of God. And the last time I checked in the Hebrew, all means all. And the place went crazy, and they were elected, they were installed as a pastor, and they are having the best years they've had in 25 years. Why? Because we had to get that church back to being God-centered. Make sense? It all starts with God, or it doesn't start at all. But by the way, it starts with God, but it doesn't stop there. He says this: the God of heaven, and then he says this, will give us success. What is that? That means you're faith-focused. The God of heaven will give us success. Now, what I love about that is he goes, this is God's promise. The God of heaven, the God who's got all the power you'll ever need, will give us success. You know what that means? Hey, dream some stuff. Try some stuff. Dream some God-sized dreams for your life, for your marriage, for your kids, for your church, for your community. The God of heaven will give you success. When you believe that, you can build a wall in 52 days that nobody said could build for 92 years. And so you're looking at this thing going, man, and you're going, can that happen? Do any Christians live like this? If you're taking notes, write this down, okay? You're going to be paralyzed by fear or fueled by faith. You're going to spend your whole life paralyzed by fear or fueled by faith. And I had the privilege a couple weeks ago, my wife and I had the privilege of going to Texas, which is not a privilege in July. We flew to Texas. By the way, this place is awesome. Wouldn't you agree? Yesterday, I'm with us in heaven. And they told me, it's like this all year round. We go to Texas in July because we were invited to be on the set of The Chosen while they're filming. Raise your hand if you've seen some or all of The Chosen. There's nothing ever like it in history. And we are there, and it was electric. And here's a shot of us. This is backstage. The only thing they were filming that day are scenes with Judas. Remember Judas in the Bible? And so this is the actor playing Judas. Here's a closer-up shot of him. There we go. And he was awesome. Really committed Christian, really committed role. He was fun and awesome. But kind of sad. I walked out of Chosen and went, kind of a bummer to go to the set of Chosen and leave, and your favorite person is Judas, because that was a whole other story. But we're with these folks, and I realized they have a room when we walked in, and they're not doing Chosen to have a TV show. They're doing Chosen to reach the world with who Jesus is and to paint as accurate a picture as they can. However, we're literally going, here's their goal. You want to hear this? I love this. The God of heaven will give us success or dream some big stuff. He says this, their vision is to reach 1 billion people with the story of Jesus. That has never happened in human history. Check this. Oh, good job. Check this out. Their goal is this. The Chosen will be translated into 600 languages so that 95% of the world will have access to the story of Jesus in their own language. It's never happened before. Chosen is also, this last year, it became the most translated media thing in history. And you know who was number one that it knocked off number one? Number one was Baywatch. I'm sitting here in the growing going, hey, Jesus beat Baywatch. This is awesome, okay? And then why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Here it is. We believe we want to tell the greatest story about the greatest person, and we wanted to tell it to the greatest amount of people in human history. And that stuff ignites me, because if the God of heaven will give you success, why not dream some God-sized amazing stuff and chase after it? That's way better than wasting a life. Would y'all agree? I got to keep going. Wow, I really do. The God of heaven, God-centered, will give us success, faith-focused. The third one is this, and we, his servant. That's servant-hearted. I love this. He says this. He says, we his servants, Nehemiah says this, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, I set out during the night with a few men. I hadn't told anyone. Here's a great phrase. And if this never happened to you ever, I feel sorry for you because you're missing out on life. He says, I have never told anyone what my God put on my heart to do for Jerusalem. When God puts something on your heart to do for people, that it makes a difference, then and only then do you start living. That happened to me recently. Sacramento's north of the Bay Area. I was asked to come down to the Bay Area and speak to a gathering of all the large church pastors in the whole Bay Area. And so I go in and I walk in. It's this exclusive country club. I walk into this place and I find the room, and there's a bunch of tables in there, and all these guys are having lunch. And there's one table, and it's all African Americans, and there's one empty chair. So I go up there, I sit down, and I just start hearing their stories. And these guys are all in Oakland. Oakland is dangerous. Are you aware of this? Every sports team's moving out, all this kind of stuff. And I also know about 3 weeks before, and this hit national, international news, the In-N-Out hamburger chain in Folsom closed. I'm sorry, the In-N-Out in Oakland closed. And it didn't close because it's the only one in history that's ever closed. And it didn't close because it wasn't selling enough hamburgers. It closed because it was unsafe. And it was unsafe for customers, it was just too dangerous. And I'm with these pastors, and these guys are going, that was heartbreaking in our town, man. And we're doing ministry where that stuff's going. And these guys are studs. One of these dudes had been in prison for 15 years, met Christ in prison, was trained in ministry, and has been a pastor now. He's 72. He's been a pastor for 40 years. Okay? And he goes door to door in Oakland, and he pastors. They called him Bishop. This guy was a live wire. He was a blast. And so we're talking to these guys, and something happened to me. because I have a guy that works for me that went to work for the corporation In-N-Out and does all their connections to religious causes, things like that. So I called him and said, can you set up a meeting with the person that owns and runs In-N-Out and me, and I'll bring a couple other pastors with me, because here's what I want to do. I would like to ask In-N-Out to give us for free for 10 years the In-N-Out in Oakland. It's not doing them any good right now. I'd love to ask them, would you give that to us for free? I will get these pastors, we'll create a coalition, we will support it, and we will reopen that. We'll keep it, it'll look just like an In-N-Out. We're not changing a thing, but we're gonna put In-N-Out Church, and we will launch and church plant in Oakland at the In-N-Out. Wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, hamburgers for communion stuff, it would be incredible. And then what we'd do is this. Then the rest of the week we would use it as a free food distribution center. It's a massive loss to the city of Oakland, everybody. How do you turn a loss into a win? The God of heaven will give us success, and we, his servants, if God has never put anything on your heart. By the way, do I have like 2 extra minutes? Do I have 15 extra minutes? No. This just happened in one of our churches, and this, if you can cut this out of the tape, I didn't tell the previous services. We have a bunch of churches. One of our churches, really great couple in this church, called the pastor, and they said, God's put something on our heart. Happened to Nehemiah, happened to them, should happen to you. And they said, so they met with them and they said, what's our church debt load? What do we owe? And they said, $5 million. And they said, well, if we didn't have to make payments on that, that could all go into like direct ministry and advance the kingdom of God, right? They said, yep. And he said, it's $5 million? He said, yeah, it's exactly $5 million. This couple, he looked at his wife, looked at him and said, we got that. Pastor's like, what? He goes, we got that. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, you're going to check from us the next week. We're going to pay the entire debt. We feel called by God to get this church debt-free so that money goes into direct ministry. And that's what God has put on our heart to do. Man, something happens to people when God puts something on your heart, and a bunch of you are sitting here going, I wish Ray didn't come today. Number 4 is this: God-centered, faith-focused, servant-hearted. The God of heaven will give us success. We as servants, and I love this last one, will arise and build, and that is future-oriented. That's future-oriented. Folks, nobody goes forward well when they are looking what? Backwards. Nobody does. Okay? We tried an experiment in our church one time. I wanted to illustrate the only way your life gets better, the only way you stabilize is when you go forward, and the faster you go, so I put 2 bicycles in the center aisle. We should have done this. We could get away with this here, I think. With two bicycles, and we got $100 gift certificates to really great restaurants in our area. So when we have 5 services, in every one of the 5 services, I said, all right, we need 2 volunteers. If you win this bike race, you get this. I always pick the 2 studliest guys, and they went to the center aisle. They got there. We had a finish line up front, and I said, okay, on your mark, get set, and they're just ready to go tearing down there. And I said, whoa, I forgot to tell you, the last rule is this. The last person to cross the finish line is the winner. The one who rides the slowest is the winner, and if your foot touches down, you're disqualified, and if you touch a row or anything like that, you're disqualified. Out of the entire morning 5 services, nobody finished the race. Nobody. They all fall over. Why? Have you ever tried to ride a bike slow? What happens? You fall over. It's unstable. In other words, the only thing that gives you emotional stability, spiritual stability, and life stability, you only get that by going what? Forward. And sometimes the faster you go forward, the more stable you are. In other words, the God of heaven will give us success. We as servants, and I love this, we will arise and build and make some great things happen. And I'm going to wrap it up with this. If you've got your notes, okay, you got your notes? Would you turn to the back page? Turn to the back page. We do a conference designed to equip leaders, okay? But it is like moms and it's anybody leading anything. Pastors, church staffs, executives, CEOs. It is moms, dads. By the way, is anybody here, you're in high school? Good, raise your hand. Raise your hand way up. Okay, good. We will let you in for $25 instead of $249. And my advice is this: cut school in Jesus' name and get down to this conference. And bring your don't bring junior high, but the high school group, it's transformational. We have worship bands, we have comedians, because most Christians are too depressing to be around. We have 70 to 100 different speakers, seminars. We do all kinds of crazy stuff there. And then we bring in speakers, and we had 70 speakers last year, a bunch of general sessions. And what happened at one of our general sessions, we brought a guy named John Maxwell. Anybody heard of John Maxwell? Okay, John is he was a pastor, launched a great church, and then he became the leading trainer of executive CEOs in America, according to the New York Times. And so John, I have known John for a long time. We had been trying to get it for 20 years. He finally said yes. He's at the Thrive Conference, and he's 78 years old. I mean, you're no longer old. He's old. He's 78 years old, and folks, he killed it. He slayed it. He was in 4 settings. We had him do a whole bunch of different stuff, and then he spoke to the entire conference. We gathered 550 business people and a bunch of ministry people for leadership thing. He, by most popular speaker, hilarious, riveting. He absolutely slayed it and killed it. He was the hit of the convention. So we actually called him and said, we got him back for next year. But I'm sitting here, I've known him for a long time, and I'm going, he's 78. He got up and told everybody, he goes, I'm 78 years old. My name's John Maxwell, and I'm your friend. Everybody fell in love with him instantly. And then he killed it in every session. Now, here's the deal. I've known John for a long time. Okay, I was at his 60th birthday party. We've played golf before. I've known this guy for a long time. I've never seen he is better. I got to find this thing. He is better. He's better at 78 than he was at 70. He's better at 78 than he was at 50. He's better at 78 than he was at 40. I'm going, how in the world do you get better at 78 than you were before? How's that happen? And so let me ask you, is anybody here, there's got to be at least one person. Somebody here over 50? Is anybody over 50? Good, all right. So I wonder what's going on. So I did a little research, okay? And those of you over 50, God brought you here so you could hear this, or your kids could hear this and respect you more. Here we go. An extensive study in the USA found the most productive age in human life is between 60 and 70 years old. And we're telling them, oh, you're 60, retire, live selfishly for the rest of your life. Don't retire, refire. And this is this, the second most productive age in the human being, your highest ages of impact, 60 to 70, and 70 to 80 is number 2. The third most productive stage is 50 to 60. The average age of Nobel Prize winners, 62 years old. The average age of presidents of prominent companies in the world, 63 years old. The average age of the pastors of the 100 largest churches in the U.S., 71 years old. Okay? The average age of popes, by the way, is 76. So if you're under 76, would you raise your hand? Yeah, good. Some of you got a lot of time to run for pope. Go for it. This tells us the way it's been determined, the best and highest years of impact for your life are between 60 and 80 years old. And that study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found at age 60, you reach the top of your potential, and that continues into your 80s. As Bryce Jessup, who was one of my mentors about 15 years ago, Bryce Jessup told me, if you ain't dead, you ain't done. And I just wanted to drop you with that. The God of heaven will give you success. We, his servants, will arise and build. And they ignited that. And for something that hadn't happened in over 90 years, they built that wall in 52 days. God can do amazing stuff if you will live this way and put him first. I am totally out of time. Love being in this church. Love you guys. Love your pastors. Thanks for having me.